Good evening. Welcome back to the third hour of Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Sitting across the board from me, Timothy Dennis. Tim, have we got our other guest on the line with us now?
Yes, we do.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our guest this evening is cryptozoologist Lorne Coleman. We've been talking about different Bigfoot-type style sightings that have been going on, and we were discussing the fingerprint that was found a while back of what they purported was a Bigfoot fingerprint. We reported it on our radio show last week. Now we've got on the line with us Larry Hagedorn from Southeast Iowa. And Larry, you're also a Bigfoot investigator. Is that correct?
Yes, I followed that all my life. Grew up with lots of coffee shop talk about Bigfoot around, being seen here and there, and just kind of something I always lived with.
Now, have you actually yourself had a Bigfoot sighting, Larry?
No, I have not. Never personally. What
drives your passion for this field? Usually people that have seen something continue to, want to explore it and understand it. I'm not really familiar with many Bigfoot investigators who haven't had some kind of sighting. Is that, what drives you to keep investigating this field?
Well, first of all, I grew up hearing the stories. And the Temple Courier, the Des Moines Register used to frequently print stories about so-and-so going home from a meeting and after dark and a Bigfoot across the road in front of them. I've had several friends that have seen Bigfoot and reported it to me, and I took them to be telling me the truth. One thing about seeing a Bigfoot is if you see one and you tell all your friends, pretty soon everybody's laughing at you, saying you're crazy. Well, when people keep saying that yes, they did see him in spite of this, and people that are, reliable type people, you begin to think there's something out there. And then also, when I found the Internet, one of the first sites I got on was a Yahoo group that Lorne Coleman owns. And so I kind of cut my teeth on Bigfoot being a nationwide phenomenon through Lorne's group.
All right. Now, you said that you get a lot of reports in, and we talked the other day off the air, and you were telling me about a current report that you were just dealing with. Can you give us a little bit of information on that as well?
Yes, a lady that lives near me here in Southeast Iowa. She lives along a river. I can't give you her name online. She hadn't given me permission to do that. But she frequently tells us about sightings that she has around her farm. And one particular incident that happened just a few days ago, she'd gone out to her barn doing some chores, and she heard some tree knocking. And there have been many, many reports of Bigfoot using trees and using rocks, knocking them together to kind of communicate with each other. And so she heard this tree knocking. Well, she went to the door, and she let out what she knew to be a whoop or a howl that Bigfoot commonly used, and she got two answers, one from down in the woods and one from a little farther down on the river.
Now, let me ask you...
So that was kind of interesting.
Lauren, let me ask you this real quick. The knocking that we hear stories of when they seem to be communicating to one another by pounding on trees or logs. Now, isn't there also reports, and I can't remember the name of the woodpecker, but it's a huge woodpecker.
Party-headed woodpecker?
Yeah, that's the one. Isn't that known to knock? And it can be heard for like a mile, the thumping that it creates?
Oh, sure. Yes. And it could be a party-headed woodpecker, or it could be some kid out there with a club in his hand just goofing around. It's hard to say for sure.
Now, Lauren, how about you? Is this what you find in a lot of the reports, is the knocking? Have you guys been able to discount the knocking noises as well?
Well, it's hard to, really understand what's going on. Some of it could, of course, be woodpeckers. Most of the people that are reporting the wood knocking, though, are saying that they're doing something that then is responded to in a thematic way that shows that there's actual listening. Most of the woodpeckers are so random, and they're really after food, or they're after, their object is to build a nest, that when you start hearing that, you can bang and then get some response to that. And of course, we've heard more about that from the Pacific Northwest, although there are some reports from Ohio. So this sounds like it's very much in terms of that. I would be interested in seeing if this woman, for instance, could record the knocking. If she could knock and then record some of the knocking so we could hear that. Because the woodpeckers certainly do give a very distinctive kind of a noise that oftentimes an ornithologist can identify.
Well, Larry, with the investigation that this woman is familiar with, it seems like she's heard these things, so she'll actually give out the Bigfoot style howl,
yes.
or grunt or whatever. I mean, that to me is just crazy, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I just mean
sure.
You're hearing it enough that you know that if you lean out the door and go oh, you're going to hear something respond to you. That's kind of why would you? I don't know. That just seems like I would have the newscasters sitting in my driveway all the time, and I'd be grunting out the window. Listen to this. This is, and you'd hear it coming back at me. Of course, I sound more like a sea lion than a.
Dave makes that noise normally before dinner, so it's nothing unusual.
So she's heard this enough that she can actually mimic the noises that they make back. How do you know you're not swearing at them or offering them sex?
Very good question. I know there are people that have used different recordings that they thought might be Bigfoot, and they go out and then blast those recordings back into the woods. And I say to myself, wait a minute, does that mean, hey, hi, buddy, come shake my hand, or does that mean throw a rock at me?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
No wonder they're so mad. She's out there grunting and offering up free loving, and they can't find her. She's giving the howl for, hey, guys, I'm ready to play, and they can't locate her. That's got to be a little frustrating. How many reports do you get, Larry, in the Iowa area per year on Bigfoot sightings?
Oh, not so many anymore. There used to be 4 or 5 a year that would hit the papers. They quit putting them in the paper, and I probably hear 2 or 3 a year, something like that. It's not any great number. Although, now understand there are two groups of thought on this. There's one group that says that a Bigfoot is strictly a wild animal that is very shy and just very cunningly stays away from man, and there's another group that says, well, Bigfoot really is a friendly kind of an animal and or creature, almost man-like, and that they would communicate with us and get to know us if they could, but we keep shooting at them. So, grabbing guns and shooting, and they get scared of us. So,
sounds like the aliens.
Those are two schools of thought that are competing with each other, and I quite frankly don't know which one's correct. But nobody can prove anything about a Bigfoot.
Now, are there different types of Bigfoot that seem to be sighted in and around your state, Larry, or is it one specific style of Bigfoot?
Well, I hear reports of several different styles. One, there's a particular big type of Bigfoot that's supposed to have a dog-like face and supposed to be very nasty-tempered. And then there's another type that's supposed to have more of a human-type face that's friendlier. That's just unconfirmed reports, obviously. And then one thing that I noticed when I'd always through all my growing up years, I'd heard time and again about Bigfoot, especially big male Bigfoot, having humps on their back. And when I first reported that on Lorne Coleman's list, Yahoo group, some of the members were taken back at that. They'd never heard of that. And so it seems to be a kind of a Midwest conception that the males have humps, and in other parts of the country, that doesn't seem to be observed. So I don't know what the fact is there. Just interesting observation.
I wonder, Lauren, now, have you heard of that type of story before, Lauren, where the males seem to have a specific hump or...
Well, I think Larry's done a good job of getting some of those reports out of the Midwest that oftentimes newspapers would ignore because they just like to report the same old thing over and over. But I have heard other reports of the humped Bigfoot. In fact, so much so that people that would come along and said, oh, they didn't see anything other than a buffalo. And so it does come up. I was wondering if Larry knows Anna Doudrill, who's a local resident there in Iowa, that said that she saw and heard of the screams of a Bigfoot after it had bothered her as she was washing dishes. She was unloading dishes and then saw out her window the burning red eyes of a big-nosed, black-faced, hairy creature. And that seems to be one of those, and that's as recently as 1999. So we know that there was a lot of reports in the 70s, but there have been these sporadic close encounters down through the years.
Is that a story you're familiar with as well, Larry?
Lauren kind of is drifting out on me here a little bit. Can you very quickly repeat what he said?
He was talking, what was the lady's name, Lauren?
Anna Doudrill.
Anna Doudrill. Are you familiar with her and the sighting?
No, I've never heard that name.
In Ottoson, Iowa.
She's in Ottoson, Iowa, he's saying.
I think I've heard something about some reports up in that area, but I'm not familiar with them.
Could it be?
Detail at all.
What do you guys think? And Lauren, I'll ask you to start with this. In some animal species, the male is actually the caretaker for the child. Could the hump be nothing more than the father toting around his child on his back?
It could be, although we see in Bigfoot a real replication of the humanoid, the great ape pattern, where the male is usually the one that's the bluffer, the aggressive one that's kind of protecting the clan, protecting the family. And the other big kind of difference that I wanted to point out is that most of these aggressive Bigfoot reports are from the east, from the Midwest and the east. The peaceful Bigfoot seem to be much more in the wilderness areas of the Pacific Northwest. And for instance, a lot of the stories out of Iowa, besides the screams, we also hear about them stampeding cattle, chewing up cats, mangling rabbits, and breaking the necks of dogs. So it's the closeness of all of these other kinds of animals in the Midwest and East that seems to irritate Bigfoot more than even the humans. It's kind of that we have all of our pets and our livestock and stuff around, and so they can't hardly travel without hearing about some other animal.
Well, Larry, thank you very much for joining us here this evening. We appreciate you spending some time and sharing your stories with us as well.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you, Larry.
Yep, and everybody stay tuned. We're going to be back with more. We'll be back with more Lorne Coleman after the top of the break here. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Our guest this evening is Lorne Coleman, and we're talking about cryptozoology, Bigfoot sightings, and different creatures. For more information, check out Lauren's website at LorneColeman.com, LorneColeman.com, or you can check out the other website, Cryptomundo.com, Cryptomundo.com, and there Lauren puts up a lot of the different reports and news stories as well, so you can check that out. Lauren, before we went to the break, you were talking a little bit when we had Larry on about the different differences between some of the Bigfoot sightings, and it seems going towards the east and Midwest that they seem more aggressive than they do in the Pacific Northwest region in California, that kind of stuff. Is that now? Do you think that has something to do with out east people are a lot more aggressive than they seem to be, on the Pacific Northwest? Could it just be the way they ascertain what this Bigfoot is doing and the way it's communicating? Could they be taking it that that's just more of an aggressive tendency, or do you think that there really is a cultural difference even in the Bigfoot in these different regions?
I think that what's happened is that if you look at an animal living in a very close, packed area where they really have to deal with, and the most prevalent animal that you have to deal with if you're a wild animal in the Midwest and the East are dogs. Dogs in backyards, free-roaming dogs. There's so many dogs that are reported to have been killed by Bigfoot, to be seen being carried dead by Bigfoot. The very famous Momo cases from 1972 in Louisiana, Missouri, talked about, the first reports were of a Bigfoot walking through a front yard of the Harrison family, and in its arm it was carrying a bloody dog, dripping blood all over its fur. And looking at the reports, Appleton, Wisconsin had a report like that. In 1968, in Rochester, Minnesota, you had reports along Highway 52 of a man saying there was a Bigfoot there, and it seemed to be killing dogs and other animals in the area. You had a report from Sister Lakes, Michigan in 1962 of a woman driving a car, and her mother was sitting next to her. Bigfoot comes up to the car and punches her in the eye. You just don't get reports like that from the West. The Bigfoot was peacefully picking blueberries, or it was, fishing for salmon in the creek. They're almost really reflective of the California, British Columbia human style, but also they really speak to these Bigfoot can be seen in very pristine areas, no other animals around. And in the Midwest and the East, they're always running into dogs or cattle or other animals that are bothering them. So they're it's almost as if Bigfoot's pissed off all the time out east.
Well, I'd understand that. I've been out to New York a couple of times, and it's a frustrating area to be in.
Right.
You got to deal with a lot of jerks, so I could understand them being a little bit more stressed. Prices of rent and rent-controlled apartments alone could piss off a Bigfoot.
Right, exactly.
Now, let's talk a little bit, too, about kind of moving subjects. One thing that we've been getting a lot of reports on in our Weird News at the beginning of our shows, both in Europe from our international news correspondent and here in the national news with Bree Sanders, are reports of these large black cat sightings, these ghost panther cats or so that seem to be zipping around. Now, I know for a fact in Minnesota that there's this weird little buyer fest that goes on up north where you can go and you can buy basically any kind of strange, weird animal you want. They have, African lions. They have all kinds of crazy animals that you really shouldn't have as a pet. Do you think that that's just what's happening? Is that some moron went out and bought a black panther, thought it'd be cool to have one, and it outgrew the dog kennel that they were growing it in, and, they let it go, or it escaped on its own?
Well, like everything else, there's many different answers to what's going on. We know that in recent years there's many, many exotics. And in Cryptomundo all of this week leading up to Sunday now, we've seen many different kinds of a tiger was killed, a lion, a black panther. People are having these things as pets. They're escaping. In Kansas and Pennsylvania, coincidentally, in the last 2 weeks, people killed servals, which are a spotted animal. It's a spotted cat that's kind of large but not as big as a tiger. And just coincidentally, both escaped pets, both killed by people. And so we're seeing more and more of that going on. But as I write in, for instance, my book, Mysterious America, I tracked these Black Panther reports for America back over 150 years before there were exotic cats, before there was a pet trade. And people were seeing these creatures about 40% of the time that they were saying they saw a mystery cat. It was black. And we know there are no black mountain lions. There are no real indigenous black cats in the United States or Canada, but people are seeing them. They're reporting them, and it's quite frequent. And it's not to be confused with the word panther, which in Florida and Georgia in the South, anytime a mountain lion is seen or a cougar, it's called a panther, and those aren't necessarily black, but they aren't supposed to exist there either. And yet last week in Georgia, not a black, but a regular colored mountain lion, which they call the Georgia panther, was killed and verified by the game people as being a mountain lion that wasn't supposed to be there.
Well, we say that, we don't know of these black panthers being in the United States. How do we know? I mean, because a lot of the big cats, as I understand it, a lot of them are nocturnal predators. And if it's a black cat zipping around at night, and we get a lot of reports of, missing small dogs and cats and yard animals and things like that, could there just be like a Bigfoot? There's just this subculture of black cats that we're just not familiar with here in the country, or do you think it's got more of a mystical base to it?
No, I definitely, although in my original 40 Times and Mysterious America, I coined the word phantom panther because they're sort of like the phantoms of cryptozoology. They're seen, they're reported, people identify them as a mountain or panther-like creature that's totally black, but they're never caught. They're oftentimes not photographed. And over and over again we get these reports, and yet they're uncatchable. Some of the reports, though, keep coming back. For instance, some counties like Oakland County, Michigan, you have a 10-year period where every summer people were reporting black panthers there, almost as if people thought that at some level there was a breeding population of black leopards that must have decided that they wanted to live in Oakland County, Michigan. But nobody caught one. Nobody ever verified that other than knowing that there was something going on there, and they were seeing them. I grew up in Decatur, Illinois, and I tracked the reports there back to the 1800s, and in 1955, there was many reports that summer of black panthers even being seen by game wardens and police officers. So it's pretty verified that there's something going on. It's just like everything else, we just don't know exactly what.
Well, now when I see that there's these morons out there that are passing along pictures that they're taking of these black mysterious panthers, and it just started being revealed in a couple of these pictures that it's forced perspective, kind of like you were talking about the fingerprint at the beginning with the Bigfoot, and the fingerprint looks huge until you hold a dollar bill up to it and realize it looks more like a kid's palm print or the side of his hand. And it appears that, there's all these crazy pictures that have leaked, but now you see the full-scale picture, and it's actually a black house cat, but they've cropped out anything that would give you give you perspective. So it looks like this huge black panther creeping around in the tall grass when all it is a black cat in your backyard walking around in untrimmed grass. And are you seeing a lot of that with even the black cat sightings?
Yeah, actually, very much so. And, the cats of the Bigfoot world, so to speak, in terms of where, because of all of the cameras out there, because of all of the cell phones, you're getting people standing in their kitchen taking cell phone pictures of these black things in their backyard, and they then, put it online and say, see, I saw a black panther in my backyard. You go to that actual yard, you take a picture of a person in that same spot, and you see that the cat was only about 1.5 feet tall. So that happens a lot. In Illinois in the 1960s, an excited person called me up in the middle of the night, and they said, we killed a black panther. We killed a black panther with our car. Can you come out? So I came out the next morning as early as I could, and found that there was a rather large but still quite normal domestic cat, tomcat, on the side of the road. And they just swore up and down they'd seen a black panther crossing the road.
So they left it by the side of the road? They didn't even haul it off?
They left it by the side of the road.
That's
to
ingenious.
show me.
Yeah. Good. Well, we're going to take our next break here. You're listening to Darkness Radio with our guest, cryptozoologist Lorne Coleman. For more information about him and his books, check out LorneColeman.com. We'll be back with more right here on your home for the paranormal and supernatural every Saturday and Sunday. Good evening. Welcome back to Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Sitting in with me, Tim Dennis, my co-host and producer. If you have missed any part of tonight's show or any of our shows, just check out our website, and there you can find all of our podcasts of our shows going all the way back to August 24th, so you never have to miss an episode. You can also sign up, right, Tim? There's a XML feed or a...
XML feed, yep.
So you can actually sign up for that, and you'll never miss an episode, and it'll download right to your computer. You can upload them right to your iPod and listen to us, take us anywhere you want with us.
And real quick, we've had questions about RSS feeds. We do not have an RSS feed available. That'll make sense to the people who have asked.
But will an XML do the same thing as an RSS?
It will, yeah.
And can I get a BLT with my...
You can, ASAP?
Yes,
absolutely, yep.
We're going to go, speaking of freaky things, we're going to go back to Lorne Coleman, our guest this evening, who's a cryptozoologist. And Lorne, we've been talking about Bigfoot. We've talked about the Black Panther sightings that are popping up and cropping up all over. How much discussion is there between America's Cryptozoological Society and investigators like you and people over in Europe?
Well, quite a bit. I'm on a French cryptozoological list. I have many friends in England, France, somebody in Mexico.
Look at what show off all these friends he has, Tim.
No, I mean, it's a worldwide network, but probably it also has to deal... I have to deal with the fact that I've been in this field now almost 49 years. So because of that, people talk to me, they want to talk to me, and I want to talk to a lot of people. We're all just in this together, and I really, from the very beginning, never thought, for instance, I would write a book or anything. I was just writing 400 letters a month, to people. I had 400 correspondents, and I would share information, and if you share information, you get information back, and that's kind of how I started. And with the Internet, it's just been, wonderful with email. I can get up in the morning, talk to people in Russia, and by the evening, I'm going around the world talking to different people, even people in California.
Even people all the way in California.
And they're the strangest ones of all.
That's crazy. That's crazy talk right there.
Well, they're the ones that complain the most about you talking to them too early in the day.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I've had a couple of them. Now, aside from Bigfoot, what are the most cited cryptozoological beasts that are seen here in the United States?
Well, I think we've already hit on those. Those are the mystery cats, the phantom panthers, the black cats. But also you have to really consider that there's many reports of giant snakes. There are reports of thunderbirds, which may have different regional names, including Mothman. Mothman, to me, seems more like a thunderbird, although obviously because John Keel started writing about it, you got a whole bunch of other things involved there with UFOs, Men in Black, and
hey, we were laughing about this. I don't know if you're familiar with this story. We heard it a few weeks ago. That there's a black cat that makes itself known at the White House during times of duress, like when the original, what was it, Tim, during Lincoln's assassination, Kennedy's assassination, during the original Depression, during things like that, that they've cited this black cat walking around in the White House, and they've even saw it now that Obama's taken office, or is about to take office as soon as the election was going on. Have you heard anything about this? And if it always is a precursor to bad events taking place, is it related to the Mothman in any way? Is it like the Mothman's kitty, Mr. Mittens? So every time it's seen something bad.
I haven't heard about the Mothman connection, but I know that they're within the psychic and paranormal and ghost lore. There's quite a bit on the ghost cat of the White House, and probably in Jeff Belanger's new book on the ghosts of the White House, he probably has it in there. So it's kind of well known. It really doesn't have anything to do with cryptozoology. I'm sorry to say.
Wait a minute, it's a mystery cat. How can it not be cryptozoological, Lauren?
Well, mystery cats are physical in cryptozoology. Ghost cats and ghost animals I'm interested in, but it's really, see, the thing that really divides cryptozoology from hauntings and psychic phenomena is that cryptozoologists, very much the whole goal is to get tangible evidence so you can prove the physical reality of this, and then it becomes a new species, and then it's no longer cryptozoology, it's zoology. So
that's what I love that line you mentioned when you were at the Stanley. You're like, you spend your life researching and trying to prove this existence, and you do all this hard work, and then as soon as you prove it, science goes, okay, it's ours now, go away and go find something else that doesn't exist. So. Right,
and that's why I have to be open-minded, because I can go into, let's say, a native village called, I don't know, Grafton, Michigan, or Deer River, Michigan, Minnesota. Let's say we go into that native village and we start talking to people. I'm not going to not listen if somebody tells me they've seen a phantom ghost that has black color to it, or somebody else that says, I think I saw a giant tomcat, or somebody else that says, I think I saw a different and new kind of animal. So different people have their own different perspectives, and just because somebody puts it in the ghost file doesn't mean that I should ignore it. And so I'm very careful about that in terms of my open-mindedness about people talking about animals.
Well, I've become kind of a Dr. Doolittle of ghosts, of ghost animals. Lauren, seriously, this has been funny to me. I've had very few experiences in adulthood with spirits. I guess it's getting bigger and better, but the couple of funny stories. Our friend Susan, who's our book critic at the beginning of each Sunday night show, I was out visiting her and our friend Kim in Seattle at Susan's home, and I spent the night. I was sleeping in the bedroom, and the ladies were out on the hide-a-bed in the living room, because that's how I roll.
You're a pimp like that.
I know. But I told Susan in the morning, I was being pestered all night by a ghost cat. And she goes, no, I think there's a ghost in there that'll tap me. I said, no, I know what a cat feels like. When it paws at you, the way it kind of does that little patting at you with its paws. Anytime the blanket would come off my shoulders, I would feel this little, like, pawing at me. I said, so I've been haunted all night by the ghost of Mr. Mittens. I also had an experience at the Annandale Thayer house up here. And I'd love to take you to a couple of these places, because this to me is the craziest kind of ghost hunt. We were doing this big ghost hunt, and I was walking around the house with these people and all these psychics and the shamanistic ritual. They were trying to get in touch with their spirit guides, and people are walking through the house taking notes, and they'd come back and compare notes, and they would see the same spirits throughout the house. And people kept talking about the ghost cat, and I just rolled my eyes, and this lady has 2 big Angora cats, and I'm not a cat guy. Don't care for them, don't like them, which automatically means they love me and they want to be on me at all times. So this black and white Angora of hers would follow me around. So I, just kept petting it. Well, we finally went in to do the shamanic ritual where they're doing drumming and singing, and they're trying to create an environment for us to see our spirit guides. And I couldn't do it. I was just laying on the floor, kind of spread eagle like everybody else, and the cat kept coming up nuzzling my leg. So I shoot it off a couple times. So finally I just started petting this cat, and my hand's going deep into that fur and scratching it underneath the fur, and it's purring up against me. And at one point I open my eyes and I look, and my hand is just there stroking empty air.
Uh-huh.
And that was to me one of the strangest paranormal moments I've ever had. Is here I am, and you could feel the thick fur of that cat under my fingers as I was sitting there caressing this, long dead cat. So I've had these experiences. I actually even have, when I see you again at our next event, I'll play for you. I have a dog EVP whining while the owner is talking about his dead dog, and this dog suddenly lets out this little kind of noise, which we caught on audio recording. So it's interesting that you mentioned at the beginning of the show that a lot of the ghost people kind of dismiss Bigfoot and cryptozoological. But you do remain open to the ghost side of things as well?
Well, I'm saying that I remain open to listening to all of this because just because somebody else defines it as a ghost doesn't mean that it might turn out to be something else. It might be a very elusive animal. It might be a fairy tale. It might be folklore that has some impact in terms of cryptozoology. I mean, for instance, in your case, probably somebody would come along and say, well, you did find your spirit guide, and it's a cat, right?
Damn it, my spirit guide is an Angora cat.
Right.
That kind of fems
really
me out a little bit,
right?
Lauren. Yeah.
Don't you only wear Angora sweaters?
I'm going to start now, I guess.
Whereas, for me, I would be interested in that story, and then I'd want to know, were you outside? Was there some woods around? Did the creature come quickly in and out? Was it black?
No, we were inside this.
No, I'm not. I know all of that, but I'm saying that from a cryptozoological point of view, when I hear those stories,
right.
I try to really screen them through the way I look at the world without making fun, ridiculing, or excluding other people's points of view.
Well, Lauren, I got a black cat snowmobile that'll do 120, but the speedometer only goes to 85. Is that cryptozoological? Just kidding.
Too much
You've been
paint.
in the fields too long.
Yeah, he's been out in the fields way too long, drinking paint thinner and keeping himself out there. We're going to take another.
Ice fishing.
Yeah, we'll take another break. We'll come back and wrap up the show with our guest this evening, Lorne Coleman. Lorne is a noted cryptozoologist. He has got numerous books on the different fields of cryptozoology. You can get more information on Lorne by checking out his website at lornecoleman.com. That's LORENCOLEMAN.com. Or check out Cryptomundo, CRYPTOMUNDO.com. We'll have links up on our site at darknessradio.com. Just go to the upcoming guests. You'll see a picture of Lauren there and some links to check out his website. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. Good evening. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Our guest this evening, cryptozoologist Lorne Coleman. I almost totally changed his name there. Did you hear that, Tim?
You did, yeah.
I was going to call him Warren Coleman.
How do you feel about the name Warren, Lauren?
I'm saying good night now.
This is our good friend Warren Bowman, and he's Lauren. How about Chupacabra? Now there's
Chupacabras.
There's that sighting that took place in Texas, and the cop caught it on his dashboard cam, and they called it a chupacabra, and then he kind of backpedaled, and it might just be a dog or coyote with mange. What did you take of that whole scenario and story?
Well, first I have to start out by saying it's chupacabras because the plural and the singular both have an S on it, according to all my Spanish and Hispanic friends.
Oh, really? Chupacabras.
Yeah, it's chupacabras.
Right.
And so you use the EL or something in front of it to tell whether or not it's singular or plural. Anyway, chupacabras, the classic reports from 1995 in Puerto Rico show a 4.5-foot hair-covered creature that had spikes down its back, always upright, always 2 legs, with 3 toes and three fingers on the hands. And for some reason, after those first few years, everything that became unidentifiable along the Texas-Mexican border.
I like Texican. I'll take that answer. Texican border.
That had no hair, that looked like a dog, looked like a coyote, looked like a fox, are all being called chupacabras. And so this the police officer is correct. This looks like a dog with mange. Maybe there's actually a Mexican hairless dog that has a kind of large ears that this one does. But this is a dog. This is a canid. Has nothing to do with chupacabras, other than people usually in the media, usually the newspaper media down there, call everything that they can't identify a chupacabras now.
Well, that's funny because they did that. If you watch that special that Jeff Corwin did, The Search for the Yeti, he noticed that, he would show photographs of, oh, this is a Yeti, and he would show a photograph to the locals, and if they couldn't identify it, he goes, this is a snow leopard. What is this? And if they didn't know, they'd say it was a Yeti. And here's a sloth bear. What is that? It's a Yeti. What's this? Right. It's a deer. It's a Yeti. It just seemed to be the catch-all for, if I don't know what the hell it is, it must be a Yeti.
Right. And you have that with the Jersey Devil, too. If your milk goes sour in the morning in New Jersey, the Jersey Devil did it. If it's a flying orange horse over your house, it's a Jersey Devil. If it's a Bigfoot...
Do I sense a comedy bit here from Jeff Foxworthy?
No.
A giant flying orange, how you could be...
No, that was reported in 1926 in New Jersey.
A giant flying orange horse?
Yes. I don't make these things up.
Well, you should.
I know.
They might be more believable. So these creatures are just kind of catch-all. So you think the Jersey Devil, chupacabras, and things like that just seem to kind of fall.
Mothman's another one. Bigfoot even. Everything now around the world, if it's hairy and kind of foggy out there in the woods, it's called a Bigfoot. It could be, it could be a new bear, like you were mentioning earlier. It could be a new ape. It could be a new monkey. But if they don't know what it looks like, it's called a Bigfoot, even though we know that real classic Bigfoot only exists in North America. Yet everything, it used to be called an abominable snowman here, or, some Yeren or a Yowie, or these different hairy Bigfoot-like creatures have very distinctive names. But now, according to the global New World, One World media, everything that's hairy and unknown is a Bigfoot usually. And so we have that with chupacabras. As I was once quoted, a chupacabras is sort of like Jennifer Lopez. It's cross-cultural. And now...
And untalented?
And married to Mark Anthony?
Yes.
And untalented, and usually is reported with a large... Never mind. But you get what's going on here is that you have these words that now, because of the Internet, and now because of mass media and wall-to-wall media, get into the lexicon, and it just goes around the world without any kind of connection to the reality of what these things originally look like. And so that's what happened in Texas this summer. And this was the summer, with the Georgia hoax and the Montauk monster and the chupacabra, and also the report of an African lion in Colorado. We had all of these hoax-like or very suspicious reports, and I did an article on Cryptomundo in which I showed that in 1929 we had all these hoaxes go on. Also, it's almost as if the country, these creatures, these hoax creatures, were the precursor to how the stock market was going to crash.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
well,
it almost is. Yeah, it's kind of the time when you can't even know whether or not the real estate market is a hoax or not.
Yeah.
Then people start talking about Bigfoot hoaxes too.
Yeah, that's not good. Now, Lorne, I do think, and maybe you'd like to come over and stake out my apartment, but I think I have a Bigfoot that breaks in and showers because I've had to clean out my drain, and I'm a bald man, Lorne, and there's always clumps of unidentified chunks of hair in my sink and in my bathtub. Could that be that Bigfoot is showering in my place when I'm not around? They actually...
Either that or your girlfriend is not telling you something.
Well, that's true. Damn it. Well, first of all, I have to have a girlfriend. Second of all, if she's sneaking in, I'm bothered. It's funny, I bring that up because there was actually, I stopped at our local church in Circle Pines. I needed to fill up my holy water bottle because sometimes you go low. And I stopped in to fill it up, and she goes, "What do you need holy water for?" And I said, "Well, I'm a paranormal investigator." And she just kind of rolled her eyes and laughed and showed me where the font was to fill it up. And then she goes, "Are you with that fella that's here researching the Bigfoot sighting?" And I said, "There's a guy at church researching Bigfoot." She goes, "Yeah, there's been a Bigfoot sighting between here and the golf course." Now, okay, I understand the wilds of Montana, the beautiful Canadian lush, areas to live in, and all these different states where there's. But Lauren, we've got Circle Pines, Blaine, Shoreview, all kind of backed up to each other, and Bigfoot, he's hanging out in the church parking lots, forest preserve that leads up to the back of a crappy $9 a hole or $9 a round golf course.
He needed to get 9 in before dinner.
I guess so.
There you go.
I mean, but this guy was seriously out there researching this Bigfoot sighting that had been taking place. Do you see them popping up in strange locations, like small areas that
yes,
there's just no reason?
I see researchers popping up in the strangest places. No, actually, I think it's unfortunate, but because Bigfoot is so popular, and very much like, ghost hunters and taps, everybody are copycats nowadays, and they think that they can go and investigate any noise in the woods that may be a raccoon, maybe a mule, and it gets overexploded into a Bigfoot or something that's probably not there. I think it's kind of got out of hand, and that just because somebody's investigating it, just because somebody sees it, doesn't mean it's there. And I want to say, because it sounds, if you kind of stand away from this program, you might think I'm really skeptical. I'm really excited by cryptozoology, but I also have to keep level-headed, have to keep skeptical, because in the midst of all of these, what I think are real cryptids, real creatures, there's a lot that is not so worthy of investigation. As I say often, about 80% of the cases that come to me are misidentifications, mistakes, mundane animals, and the few, 1% hoaxes. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop just because somebody says in your, residential area in Minnesota they're seeing Bigfoot. I still would ask the questions. I'd still wonder what's going on, but it's highly doubtful there's a Bigfoot there.
Well, it could be that the school systems are really good and Bigfoot's just checking out the area to make sure our school district is good before he moves his family in.
Right,
yeah.
Because your showers are so good.
That's what I've been told. Well, Lauren, I want to thank you very much for joining us here. And, we didn't get to the sea serpents, but we do want to talk about that, and let's have you back on in a month or so.
I'm going to be talking tomorrow about those, so those people that are at your conference will know about them.
Exactly. So we'll also bring you back on the air for people that missed it and have you talk about sea serpents and other cool cryptozoological sea beasts as well. So stay with us, and again, for more information, check out LorneColeman.com. That's LorneColeman.com, or Cryptomundo, Cryptomundo.com, for all the information on Lorne Coleman and how to order his books. Thank you for spending some time with us this evening, sir.
Thank you, Dave. It was great talking to you again.
Great talking to you as well. And stay tuned, guys. We're going to be back again next week with brand new shows. We've got more in the world of weird and paranormal coming up for you. As a matter of fact, next week we're going to be on talking about poltergeists and other supernatural phenomena right here on your home for the best in paranormal talk radio every Saturday and Sunday, 9 to midnight. Darkness Radio.